Estou aqui com o Roderick Navarro, do grupo Rumo à Liberdade, né? How do you say it?
Rumbo Libertad.
Rumbo Libertad, Path of Liberty, da Venezuela. É um grupo de jovens, como vocês vão poder ver aqui, idealistas, que estão tentando levar um pouco aí de liberdade para a Venezuela, que vive hoje de forma muito objetiva numa ditadura, sob um regime tirânico de Nicolás Maduro, né, ligado aí ao Foro de São Paulo, aos comunistas latino-americanos. E ele vai contar um pouquinho para a gente aqui de como é que está a experiência de viver na Venezuela hoje e o que eles têm feito para tentar mudar, alterar esse quadro. Roderick, thank you very much for seeing me. And first of all, I wanted you to tell a little bit about you. Where do you come from? Why are you fighting this fight? And what do you intend with your fight?
Okay. Well, my name is Roderick Navarro. Thank you for this invitation. It's very important to us, to Brazilians and the rest of Latin America, to know what is happening in our country. I come from Venezuela. My country was the richest country in America, in the whole continent. And once was a great country. People live very happy there and work and have a good life. But then the communists take power with Chavez and supported by Lula da Silva and the Foro de Sao Paulo and Fidel Castro. And then they destroy our country. They destroy
in less than one generation, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't in 10 or 15 years, everything was completely different.
Completely destroyed.
Okay.
And the economy,
in spite of the oil price doing just fine.
They take advantage of it.
Yes.
So they destroy our youth, the happiness of the people. They are the cause of the multiple deaths that we have in our country.
Hi.
Okay.
First of all, how old are you?
I'm 30 years old.
30 years old. So
yeah.
you lived your life, the most part of it, under Hugo Chavez and now Maduro rule.
I don't know what
you
democracy
don't know. You don't know what freedom looks like or what democracy looks like.
But I know how to feel freedom. Yeah. Maybe because we don't have a free country, we can feel how freedom is needed by us. So that's why we fight for freedom in the streets. And the youth is the most important part of the population who fights for it.
So how do you fight? With guns?
No, we don't have guns because.
But how can you fight an army, a corrupt army? And that's one of my questions also.
Okay.
Maduro is not a charismatic person like Chavez was, like Lula is. And how does he control the army? Why do people obey him?
Because the narco traffic and the fear. So the military doesn't have another option that obey. And they have an intelligence structure built by the Cubans since Chavez in power, and that is very strong, and they can kill the family of the military people. They can put it in jail. They
threat and they have a militia there that works for Maduro.
Paramilitarians.
Paramilitarians, yeah.
So they use fear and narco traffic. They corrupt the militaries for making make them obey to Maduro.
So you don't see any chance of the army itself throwing Maduro out of power if the situation gets unsustainable? I guess it is unsustainable already. The inflation and the misery. You think if you want a free country, you will have to defeat not only Maduro but the army itself. Is that correct?
Most than the army, because we really believe that inside the military forces there are very patriotic people, Venezuelan people there, supporting what people and the civilians do. We really believe that the most important problem are not them, just the fake opposition. We have a fake opposition, Fabiano. They are like Fabiano.
Okay, yeah, they once mentioned that they wanted to be like Lula in Brazil, like a left party, moderate left party, which is not the case at all. Lula supports Maduro and used to support Chavez, so he wanted to do the same in Brazil. He was not able to do it, but he wanted to.
Yeah, and this fake opposition wants to make to believe to the world that there is democracy in Venezuela, that there is the possibility that we can fix the problems with dialogue and with elections. But the dialogue only benefits, the only benefits are for Maduro.
Sure,
and
there's no dialogue with the other side who wants to either kill you or make you obey.
They're criminals.
Yeah, they are criminals.
And the elections are controlled by Maduro. So there is no chance for people to win an election, a real election.
Did you know that we have in Brazil the urna eletrônica, which is made? Yeah, it was made by a Venezuelan company.
Yeah, and now
and the owner said that it's not good. Not
and
fun.
you know why? Because in the July 30, when the constituent elections were, we say to the people, we are not going to allow this election. We are going to the voting centers, and we are going to stop the installation of the election. You know, and people stopped it. And Maduro at night says, I have 1 million votes. People vote for me. And Smartmatic say, hey, this is not true. Because I have Smartmatic in Brazil and other countries, and I need my contracts and I need my business. So they went out to London, and the next day in the morning they said, what's a fraud in Venezuela?
And what about newspapers? We don't have any newspapers independent anymore in Venezuela.
Newspapers.
They all left.
Yeah, they are all left, but not only left. But there is no freedom of speech. It's impossible to say dictatorship in a newspaper.
Yeah, so it's fake again. It looks like a press, but it's only a government department that builds a narrative.
Because there is they threat a lot the journalists. They threat a lot the press, las empresas, I just say,
¿Sí?
las empresas, la media de comunicación. So they are always afraid. They are always afraid. So they can say resistance. They cannot say the way is not the election.
Yeah.
They cannot say the way is not the dialogue, because they say this is fascism.
Okay. So I get what you say. If it looks like a dictatorship, or if it doesn't want to pretend that it's a democracy, like Cuba, for example, they try to pretend, but it's obvious to anyone.
Sure.
So it's easier to fight when you know, and when everybody knows what are you dealing with. In Venezuela, they still pretend or look like a regular country, democracy, press, and all that. And but you know that in the end of the day, if you go against that regime, against the government, you're in trouble.
Yeah, we're in trouble. In fact, we are perseguidos.
Chased.
We're chased.
Yeah.
By the
we've seen some
dictatorship.
Yeah, I know you don't have a free press there, but people have cell phones, and we've seen some.
This is power.
Shocking images.
The smartphones. It's a powerful gun. It's the most powerful thing we have there, because they can allow us to show to the world the real truth about what's happening in Venezuela. And
do they try to control it, to make it harder for you to?
They're going to make laws for controlling the social media. It's absurd, because they say we are going to control Twitter and we're going to control Instagram and Facebook, but it's impossible. It's ridiculous to do that from Venezuela.
Well, China tries to do it,
but in Venezuela they try to do it. So they cannot do that, because if they do that, they lose also control in their propaganda. So they depend also from the social media.
So they try to use power and money to
make a lot of propaganda.
Yeah, impose a narrative against you guys. But come on,
the mainstream media.
Yeah, mainstream media. But come on, Roderick. People go out in the streets, the one that are brave enough to do so, and they see poverty. They see injustice everywhere. They cannot go a lot of places now because of violence and crimes. So who supports Venezuela and Maduro in this kind of situation?
Nobody really supports Maduro right now.
Only the people that are accomplices.
Let me tell you this.
Part of the corrupt regime.
Not only, but there is slavery in my country. Let me tell you this. There is an ID that Maduro calls Carnet de la Patria. Yeah? And that's illegal ID. They created from the political party. So they control now everything by that ID. Your food, your benefits, social benefits, your civil rights are controlled by that ID, and you have no freedom for do anything, for going to the bank, for having your diploma from your university. It's impossible if you don't have that ID. So they control your life by that ID.
Okay, it's so like a Soviet party card.
Or the
without it, you can't do anything.
Absolutely. So it's not like people is supporting Maduro. It's like the people don't have another chance for living that. Okay.
Either they choose to fight, and with all that comes in terms of risks, or either they accept that they are slaves.
Yeah,
that's the deal.
But people aguanta, soporta eso. They have no other chance, but they know when Maduro is go out to power, we're going to eliminate that slavery, slavery, because we want a free country, and that's why people is fighting with us.
Do you think that in Venezuela right now, because of Chavez and Maduro and all that people are facing, do you think that the idea of freedom, of capitalism, for example, is becoming stronger?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you know what Chavez says? Chavez says that to be rich is a bad thing. But people realize that the bad thing is to be a poor guy. So the capitalism is the only way to be to have a very good living. So people understand that in slavery, people cannot be happy. People can find their happiness. The happiness is only can find it because of freedom.
Yeah, choice. You need choice and moral choice as well.
Yeah, that's why people is fighting so hard for it. They give their lives, and mostly the youth. Maduro killed almost 200 young people. They are not even 25 years.
Why do you think is that the older people are cowards, or they just don't have any more hope?
No, it's because I think it's the way they look the future. You know, we have a very long future than they have, but that doesn't mean that they doesn't support us. They support the young people, because the people of Venezuela is inspired by the youth, but that desire of to be free in Venezuelan soil, not abroad. Like 3 million people of my people lives now in the States.
Yeah,
Spain,
we are
Colombia,
in
Brazil,
Weston right now, which the nickname used to be Westonzuela.
Yeah, because
of
there is a lot of Venezuelans here. And let me tell you this, my people here want to go back Venezuela.
Yeah.
They are good living here, good jobs, good houses, their kids are very happy, but
it's
they
not
want
their
to
country.
go back.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
it's like a sentence that a friend of mine, a politician in Brazil, says, a libertarian one. We don't want to change from our country. We want to change our country.
Yeah.
So that's the message. And what kind of support those movements have in terms of
resistance?
In terms of money, in terms of guns. Because if you're fighting an army and militia, you need guns. I don't see, and it kind of bothers me and makes me mad to see like authorities, especially in Brazil and around the world, talking about dialogue between Maduro and the opposition. It's ridiculous. You cannot have a dialogue with a terrorist. So you need guns. Venezuela is above the points of return in terms of dialogue. So what are those young people doing in terms of resistance, practical decisions?
Well, about the guns.
Yes.
We really believe that a society needs to be armed for protecting their families and their houses. And Venezuela is like an example for it. There is some regions in my country, for example, Los Andes, Venezuelan Andes, where the police came to the private property
and took guns from
get into the houses, destroy the people private spaces, took the girls, took the young guys to the jail because they want to be first. So people there get organized and defend their homes, because the old guys get prepared, the fathers of the houses get organized in the communities, and they stop the paramilitarians and these police who responds to Maduro.
Okay. We saw that in Mexico as well.
Like autodefense.
Yes, yes.
But also there is a rebellion inside the military forces, and also a rebellion inside the police forces, because they are not agree about what Maduro's narco dictatorship is doing against people in Venezuela. And they also publicly says, we support this the civil resistance, and then we are going to defend the civilians from this enemy of the people, Venezuelan people.
And what about U.S. government support? Do you have any? And did you see some difference between Obama and
Absolutely.
Trump?
It's very different. There's a radical difference there. Because we believe that Obama was a very good friend of the Foro de Sao Paulo objectives. So they went to Cuba. They said Castro's very cool,
a nice deal,
and the Pope, what was great. But now President Trump says the truth. Well, Venezuela is a narco dictatorship.
Yes.
Venezuela, the socialism was fully
that was a good sentence.
It was amazing. It was what he says in UN. And it was very important in Venezuela. Hey, the president of the States is saying that, the truth. Even in Venezuela, the fake opposition said it was a fake thing, because they said in Venezuela is no socialism.
Okay, but I guess Venezuelan people are beyond the rhetoric and words. They want action. So is Trump's term administration doing something actually to help?
Yeah, the economic sanctions was very important. Let me tell you why. Because they destroy the possibility of Maduro and his fake opposition to go forward with their business, with the business in corruption and narco traffic and the money from the oil. So they have really hard troubles right now. And that results in inside the Chavismo. The Chavismo was not a solid force, but now it's divided.
You can split it if money becomes scarce.
Absolutely. So that's what's happening right now in Venezuela. So we really believe that this administration is really helping us to our cause, because they're are making very weak Maduro's government, and that makes easier.
Yeah, but
Maduro's
do you see U.S. government helping more than that? For example, sending people to train or money or guns like they did in Cuba.
In Parliament yesterday, they approved a bill that now goes to Senate to the Senate for approving resources for humanitarian aid. And also they said in this bill, if Maduro doesn't cooperate with this humanitarian aid, we really believe that we're going to take another ways to helping people. And we are very hopeful because of it, because now in the Security Council of the UN, this Nikki Haley, the representative of United States in that Security Council, she says in Venezuela, people, children, are going to die if Maduro doesn't go out in power. Caritas says that if Maduro doesn't go out, 300,000 children less than 5 years old are going to die of starving. So what they really want to do is help our people, and we really believe that they are going very good in that way, where we are preparing ourselves in the civil resistance to take this humanitarian aid for going inside Venezuela and make easier Maduro's out.
Okay, okay. And let me ask you something, a personal question. You don't,
Yeah.
if you don't want to answer it because of risks or something like this. How do you make your living there? You still live in Venezuela, correct?
I used to live there with my
okay,
friends here.
okay.
But was impossible to
Impossible to make a living.
to make a living. You know, I
if
was
you're
a
not part,
beekeeper.
if you're not part of a system.
Yeah, because look at this. I was a beekeeper, okay? It's like my job,
Okay.
and I love my job because it's a nature, you know. But it's impossible to make a living there. It's impossible to study in university. When you know that when you go home, when you come back home, you live in a slavery.
Yeah.
Okay, you can't
Totalitarian.
you can
regime.
planning a family. You can plan even vacations. You can plan anything. So for change this situation, you have to fight.
Okay.
Somebody has to stand against Maduro. Somebody
Okay.
has to say we need to fight for our civil rights, for freedom in Venezuela. So me and another guys in the civil resistance, my group is called Rumbo Libertad. Here is Robert Romero and Eduardo Vitar with me right now. We are fighting for freedom. We are like an stop in our lives, and we are going to do this
Okay.
because the politicians in Venezuela don't do what they need to do,
Yeah.
or what we need to do, the population.
And let me ask you something. We've seen many times in history some national liberation armies or movements like this fighting dictatorships, but once they come to power,
They fail.
Yeah, they fail because democracy is not what comes with them, but a new kind of dictatorship.
Yeah,
Are you afraid of that fate in Venezuela?
we want a transition. Then Maduro goes out. Then we want a transition government, and we are afraid of what you said. Okay, because Egypt is an example.
Okay.
Maybe Ukraine is an example.
Yeah.
You know what happened in the Middle East. But we are preparing ourselves to make a very important proposal about what we need to do in this transition. We, in the next week, we are going to show to the public opinion, what are the proposals of the civil resistance for this government of transition.
And what are the main points?
In economy, in the social reforms, in the state reforms, in the international issue, in the oil issue, security issue, and freedom of speech.
Okay.
So in
What to do with the state-owned company PDVSA?
it's destroyed, man. It's very, very destroyed. Rafael Ramirez, who was the represent of the Venezuelan government in the UN, he was the actor who really destroyed PDVSA as an oil enterprise. Was in the 20th century was was the greatest oil enterprise in the world. But now it's the worst.
Do you think privatization is a way to solve it? Because if you keep the asset in government's hands, you always will have the risk of a new populist coming to power and using it to buy votes.
Absolutely, privatization is one of the ways.
Okay.
Okay, because there is a lot of people in the oil area, which is very, very important for our country. They are working in other oil enterprises in the world, and they are very hard and very important human resources for go back to Venezuela and restore our enterprise.
Once you succeed and you throw Chavistas out of power, you're gonna you need to be careful about revenge, Because of course a lot of people that works now for the system works because they are afraid to lose their lives, their jobs, their everything.
Or because it's very profitable.
Yeah, it's very profitable. It's one of the answers. But I'm pretty sure there are some people that are not bad enough, or they are bad, they are cowards probably, but we've seen that many times in history. So if you want to build a new and better country, you will probably need to ignore part of what people are doing today. And I know it's very tough for young people and idealists, because I, for example, am one that would not live with that very well. I want justice for everyone that did wrong stuff.
Absolutely.
But if you can't govern a country or make it think about the future if you're still hanging on the past. So how to deal with that?
We want justice, and we really believe that if we want a real free country, justice have to be there. So that's why we really believe in these reforms in the political system and the state, for cleaning the judiciario. We need to clean that, because it's taken back the Chavismo.
Even the Supreme Court, everything. Yeah.
Everything. So we really believe that justice institution has to take part of it.
Okay.
But the Chavismo can't be more in power anymore.
Okay.
Because they don't deserve it.
At least the leadership. They need to be.
They can't exist in.
Yeah, they have to
country.
pay for what they did.
They have to pay, but they can't be in power anymore. They cannot.
Okay.
We have to prohibit, to forbid communism as a political force power in our country, as Polonian.
Yeah, sure.
Because there's this dangerous.
No more communist symbols. Yeah.
Because communists can kill.
If we don't accept the swastika from Nazi, there's no reason to accept the symbols from Stalin or communists that kill much more people, 100 million people.
Our children are dying because of it. Yes. The old people in Venezuela is dying because of the lack of medicine.
Yes.
So we need to forbid this political idea who kills people when they take power.
Okay, and Roderick, one last question for you.
Okay.
Now it interests more Brazilians, I guess.
Okay.
We are gonna have an election next year.
Yeah.
And we still have in the polls, at least, which are not that trustable, but we still have Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, which is a friend, and much more than a friend. It's an accomplice. Is a guy from Foro de São Paulo who recorded videos asking for votes for Chavez and Maduro in Venezuela, which is against the law in Brazil, and he's still probably gonna be at least in the second turn in the elections next year, and has a real chance of winning. I don't think it's gonna happen, but has a real chance. So what would you say for Brazilian people that are watching us right now? Are you crazy? Are you out of your minds? Do you want to go in Venezuela? Do you want to change places with me and have a feeling of what it looks like to live in a country that Lula wants Brazil to become? What's your message for Brazilian people?
We are in Brazil. We have there in Sao Paulo an international base operation for the civil resistance, for it's like an embassy for us, and we talked a lot with Brazilians, and we make a decision. We're going to be in Brazil telling the truth about what's happening in our country.
Great.
We want to be with the youth in the universities. We want to tell them the truth about our country, how bad it is to live in Venezuela, because the Foro de São Paulo project, because what Maduro, Lula da Silva, and Fidel Castro once dreamed together, and now that dream becomes the nightmare of all one nation.
Yes.
So we really believe that people inside of their hearts in Brazil doesn't want Brazil a new Venezuela. So we're going to help the libertarian, liberal forces to show them the truth, because we really believe that the PT propaganda, Lula's propaganda, is very hard right now. And they say that Venezuela is like, a paradise. There's a lie what's happening there. People is fat because they eat a lot, they are happy, they don't have troubles. And go to Venezuela and see the truth. Go to the hospital, how you see children dying like Africa, or old people dying like Europeans in the World War II. It's very awful, and we don't want Brazil to be a new Venezuelan, and Lula da Silva really wants that.
Yeah.
And I ask to the Brazilian people not to support Lula da Silva, because this is the enemy of your future and the enemy of the youth.
Great. I appreciate the effort, and I hope you go prepared if you're going to be in the universities. We have a lot of left people, radical left people.
I was
there.
in the USP.
Yeah. It's terrible. They don't know socialism. They think it's a good idea, a nice idea. They think that if they say they support socialism, that means that they are for the poor people and against the rich. So it doesn't make sense, but that's what we have after decades of indoctrination in universities. So be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really appreciate, Roderick. Thank you very much. I really hope you succeed. I'm gonna try to do everything that I can to help, and I wish the best for Venezuela. I mean, it's terrible to see what's going on in our generation, and a country be destroyed, completely destroyed, like a war, as you mentioned.
War. It's a war.
But it's not a war. It's a government that is doing it itself to the country. So it's just terrible.
Well, thank you very much.
Day by day, die more people in Venezuela.
Yeah, it's completely fucked up country. Yeah. Okay.
Well, but we're gonna fix it.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you.